Hi everyone, it's Cole from Cole's Quilts. The Christmas tree quilt-along is going to be starting next week. So I wanted to post a video to talk about a few things that are different about this quilt as compared to the last quilt-along and some of my other patterns, just so that you guys can sort of have an idea of how it's going to go. I'm not going to be posting videos showing every step, but I'm going to post this video that sort of is a description, and then I might post some pictures or videos of work along the way. If you have any questions, you can comment on this video, or you can go to the Facebook group, or you can message me on my website. The first thing that I want to point out about this quilt design is that the last quilt design, the Kaleidoscope Owl, was all the same block, but with different colors, which was a little bit tedious to sew, but a very cool design. And part of my thought process behind that was that it would be a little bit easier than some of the patterns that I sell that tend to be intermediate to advanced foundation paper piecing. This design is not all the same block. It is, however, relatively simple blocks, and none of the blocks have to be divided into smaller sections. So a lot of the patterns that I sell that are more complex involves one block being created with many little pieces that get sewn together to make that block. This quilt doesn't have any of that. So every block is done as one section. The other thing is that the Kaleidoscope Owl quilt blocks were 5-inch quilt blocks, and the quilt blocks in the Christmas tree pattern are 7.5-inch quilt blocks, which is the size I use most commonly. Another thing I want to point out is that the order that I'm going to be publishing the blocks in is not the order that you would necessarily sew them in. So what I mean by that is, when I did the Kaleidoscope Owl, I worked top to bottom, sort of left to right when you were looking at it from the back. But I was doing it 2 rows at a time, so it was like A1 and B1, and then the next one was A2 and B2. In this quilt, because there are some blocks that repeat and there are some blocks that don't, the way that I'm going to lay out the blocks is I'm going to start with posting the blocks that repeat. And then once we get through the repeated blocks, we're going to go into some blocks that are unique, where only one block is that way. It's going to average about 4 blocks a week. If you can't keep up with that, that's totally okay. Everything will stay on my website, and it will stay up for free for a month after the quilt along is completed. For the repeated blocks, what I do in some of my patterns is that if there is a block that repeats and it's the same colors, I will just make one and then have a note on it that says how many times you have to print it. The example, the one that we're going to be starting with here, there are actually 6 of these in the entire quilt that are all this same block. So you'll notice right here, instead of it just saying this is A1, it says this is A1, A3, A5, C1, G1, G3. At the bottom it says, please print out 6. So there are some where there are 6, some where there are 4, some where there are 3. It will say how many you need to print. And then what I would recommend doing is, after you print it, go through each one and circle one of them so you can keep track of which one is supposed to be which when you put it together. So if you're putting this up on a design wall, it's going to start out sort of feeling really sort of sporadic and everywhere. And then as you make more blocks, more of those spaces will fill in, which in a way is kind of exciting and different, right? Another thing that I want to point out is I'm not going to have the color circles like I did in the Kaleidoscope Owl quilt. And the reason for this is because the colors that exist are pretty clearly defined ahead of time. With the Kaleidoscope Owl quilt, there were so many different colors that the idea was sort of look at the color and try to find something you have as close as possible. If I were to list them out, I don't even know. I don't even know how many different colors there would be. With this quilt, there are clearly defined colors. So it's really easy to say, okay, there's going to be 3 greens, there are going to be a certain number of blues, there are going to be a certain number of reds, and those directions will be posted on my website and in the Facebook group. That's just the starting directions that sort of list how it's going to go. what the colors are if you want to go and purchase fabric, if you're not just going to be using stuff from your stash. But one thing that I do want to say, this is designed to be a scrappy quilt. So if we look for as an example on this one, so the blues that are in the sky, I'm labeling with an S, and the blues that are light on the tree, I'm labeling BL for blue light. The sky has 4 different blues, one being the darkest blue, like a midnight blue, and the 4th being light blue. Okay, so if you look at this, you're going to have a lot of different S1s. S1, 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 a lot of different S2s. So you could go and buy fabric, have a color for each one, and be consistent. Or this is designed to be a scrap quilt. What I have done, I started organizing my scraps, and I took all my blues and I separated them out into 4. As an example, here is a bag that's going to be my Sky 1, the darkest blues. So I have a few different kinds. Yes, this is denim. I don't care. I have some batiks. I put all of my dark blues in one bag, and then sort of my medium blues in another bag. Then I have my lighter blues, and then I have lightest blues. Since it's meant to be scraps, that means that every time it says S1, I'm not necessarily going to be using the exact same color. I'm just going to be grabbing from my S1 bag and doing all sorts of different dark blues. I'm going to do the same thing with the greens. I love how this looks with scrappy quilts. I think it makes it look really interesting. But again, you don't have to do it that way. It's totally up to you. The number of blocks that are going to be published, like I said, it's usually going to be about 4, but the first one I'm going to be publishing is going to be 6 because there are 6 of this block. So again, if you can't keep up with how soon I'm posting them, it's totally fine. You're still going to be able to get all of the blocks. I'm really excited about this quilt. I hope you guys are excited about it. If you know other people who like to do quilt-alongs and like doing foundation paper piecing or really like Christmas quilts, please let them know. It's free for anyone to do. I'm just going to post the blocks, and if you want to join our Facebook group, you can post pictures of your progress so that we can see all the different versions of the quilts. I'm excited to see everyone's quilts. Let me know if you have any questions.